All right. Also, as a reminder, I'd like to remind people about the different offerings that we have. On Thursdays at 7 o'clock, we have Thursday Thirst, a weekly Bible study. Please join us for that. Also, on Sundays at 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, that's 10 a.m., we have a time of worship that is on Facebook and YouTube. It's also in person. You see this address that's right here on the screen. Feel free to come join us if you are in the area. And then on Tuesdays, that's today, at 7 o'clock, we have a time of prayer from 7 to 7:45. You can pray with others in the ministry. So as you pray, we will be praying as well. And so you're praying along with other people in the ministry. And so you don't have to pray from 7 to 7:45. Just sometime in between that time, if you are praying, you're praying with us. And as always, Impact 2026. All right. Well, look, we're not even gonna play. Y'all, you know what's going on. The biggest story that is out here right now, of course, is the war with Iran. But the biggest story that's going right out here in the church space, the church sphere, is the fact that the president of the United States is criticizing the Pope. Yep, that's right. The head of the Catholic Church, he's criticizing the Pope. And in doing that, he decided that it was a good idea to uh, put out on his social media platform that he uses a picture of himself as Jesus Christ. And so now it caused the big stirs. A lot of that he tried to walk back. And so two separate issues and also the same issue. And so we'll tackle it one at a time. So first and foremost, criticizing the Pope. What happened? The Pope, the current Pope, the first Pope, first American-born Pope, made a comment and a series of comments about the war in Iran. And basically, not even just the war in Iran. It's been a common theme about the war in Iran, the war in Ukraine, the conflict in Gaza. It is that we need to be able to find ways to get to peace. We need to be able to find ways to get our conflicts handled without war, without loss of life. And so the way that it's been framed across is that he's been critical of war just because of the fact that, as a Christian, he doesn't want war. He wants peace. He does not want people dying. And so he's not a supporter of not just this war between the United States and Iran, but wars in general. And so the president of the United States, the current president of the United States, decided to go on his social media platform and respond or clap back or whatever kind of words you want to use to describe it. Decided to come back and say, wasn't a fan of this Pope. Pope is politicizing things. The Pope is weak. This Pope he doesn't have a problem with crime and all of this kind of stuff. And so criticizing back at the Pope. Now, his vice president, J.D. Vance, is supposed to be Catholic. Supposedly he converted to Catholicism for his wife, but supposedly he's a Catholic. And so the question was, one, what does he have to say about it? And he's basically not said anything. But two, what are the Catholic Church? Now, if you know what's going on here in the United States, we've had a shift because the Pope is from the United States. We've had a shift in who runs the Catholic Church here in the United States. The highest ranking official in the United States, Cardinal Dolan, has left. He was a super political, super conservative person. And so his stuff would be leaning towards what the president would say. And I'm going to take some personal liberties here. If you disagree, you can definitely write it in. But he appeared to be more towards, I want to be a policymaker, I want to be a politician. And I think he oftentimes lessened his responsibility to the church, to the Bible, to the Word of God. And so he often tried to get people to vote certain ways or be with political parties more so than following what Christ would teach. And so he was a big Trump supporter, which is, it is what it is. But that's changed. Dolan is gone. And now there's a new person in charge of church, or the new highest ranking official in the United States. And so one of the questions that's been going around that people have been asking is, well, what does that mean for his Catholic supporters? Now there's some disagreement on how big his Catholic supporters were. The true Catholics, what that situation was. The report is that 25% of the MAGA group was Christian. Now that's not Catholic, but that was Christian. And so the concern for his group and what's going on with him is, all right, one, what does this do for Christians? Period. All right, you can't be beefing with the Pope, because even if you're not Catholic, if you're a Protestant, if you whatever denomination you are, usually there's a little bit of respect for the Pope. Some of the denominations beef with the Pope a little bit; they just don't like that concept. But for the most part, there's a level of respect for what's going on with the Pope amongst just across the board. Also, there was this notion that Hispanics were really now pro-Trump, pro-MAGA. They're going to go that way from now on. I don't know where people got that from, but the notion that a large number of Hispanics are Catholics. And so now you have this whole situation where all these people are sitting back here who are Catholics, who are supporters of the Pope, and now you have the president criticizing the Pope. So you have that on this one side. And so that's their concern. And when I say their concern, the political concern, the people who are in that whole space. But then the other side is, as a Catholic or as a Christian, how do you feel about this situation? One person wrote, was writing about it and responding, and basically wrote down that this is a creation of your own doing, saying that the reason that he's criticizing the Pope and the reason that he's doing these things where he thinks that he's a deity is because you treated him as such. So instead of treating God how you're supposed to treat him, you decide to treat this person, this man, as a God. And so a lot of people's eyes right now are on Catholics and just on Christians as a whole to see, what are y'all doing? Are you still, for the ones who support this president, are you still going to support him, even though he's criticizing the Pope, even though he's going against, and it's not just what the Pope, it's what the Pope said. Because the reality of the matter is, if we are Christians, we should be looking towards peace and not conflict. Even though some people try to respond and say things such as, have you read the Bible? There's plenty of conflict in the Bible. There's plenty of conflict and wars in the Bible. And so they were saying, because this is a situation of where we are on the right side, and so the Pope should be supporting us, because if that's your thought process, maybe so. But the question is that all the eyes of the world are on Christians and Catholics. And I'm saying it's just the reason I'm just parsing it out is because Pope, Catholic, Catholicism. But the eyes of the world are on to try to see, all right, for all of y'all who supported Trump, how are you going to do now? How are you going to choose? Are you going to be hot? You're going to be cold? What are we doing here? You can't serve two masters. That's what it says in the word. So what we going to do? And we're looking for the response of people. Comment. Blessed are the peacemakers. Trump and those who are criticizing the Pope do not know what it means to be Christian. For the Pope, not to advocate for peace would be an anomaly. Exactly. I think that's what you clearly know, and what you clearly see are the people who don't know the Bible at all. That's what you're seeing. You're seeing that separation right there. And so you've also seen, unfortunately, some people who swear that they're Christians bending over backwards to give excuses for this president. Bending over backwards to kind of say, well, the Pope shouldn't be getting into politics. This isn't the business of the Pope. This isn't, you kind of just stay out of this one. So stay out of making sure that people aren't being killed. And one of the main reasons that the Pope spoke before, but one of the main reasons that the Pope had to speak again, especially during as Easter came around, was because of the fact that Trump was going around saying that he wanted to wipe out civilizations. And that is a new, it's not even a war anymore where you're talking about people or soldiers fighting one another because of whatever the conflict may be. And it may be somebody who's doing bad things to others. But now you're talking about wiping out civilizations. Now you're talking about killing innocent people. Now you're talking about killing innocent fathers and mothers and sons and daughters and grandparents and aunts and nieces, just regular people who have nothing to do with the conflict. Most of us don't control what the leaders of these countries do and these wars that these leaders decide to get into. Most of us we don't care about any of that. We're trying to love one another, trying to raise our families, trying to do our thing. And so when you start to talk about wiping out civilizations and going for innocent people or people who are civilians, it goes into a new place, a dark place, an evil place. And so, of course, the Pope has to speak against that. The question is, all of you people who call yourselves Christians who want us to be, Trump supporters, Republicans, whatever you want to be at this moment that you call yourself. I think now people are looking at you with a new, already had some a weird eye at you. Like, okay, but now it's clearly a conflict of your faith. What Trump is doing and supporting him conflicts with your faith. And if you don't see that and you're still making excuses and tripping over backwards like a lot of people are doing, trying to say like, yeah, this works. It's the good part about it is it's obvious to everybody where you are and who you've chosen as your master. Again, because you can't have two. There was another comment. They say even Hitler did not go after the Pope. Was Hitler better than Trump? Interesting. Some people are smart and they know you can't fight everyone. You know that you don't need to antagonize people. Trump doesn't know that. Not that smart. Not smart enough to know that you don't need to antagonize everybody. And so that is really what's going on right now. You're having the Pope, and then you're having people having to make choices and make decisions. You have to defend your position. And if they and another person who was commentating and doing articles towards this situation said, now look, if now isn't the time that you will finally turn away and abandon Trump, when you're criticizing the Pope, when you're criticizing peace, when you're talking about killing innocent people, wiping civilizations off the map. If now, even during Easter time and right after Easter time, you cannot realize that this person is trying to take you down a bad path, then you never will. Now that was before the next part that we're talking about. So the comments is if you are allowing him to criticize the Pope and criticizing the fact that the Pope wants peace, and you think for some reason that's wrong, and the Pope's supposed to support war, that if that's not a line too far, then nothing will make you turn back. So then Trump decides, let me double down. So there was already this AI generated picture of him as Jesus that some person had made. Trump decides, I'm going to tweet this out. I'm going to put it on not tweet it out. I don't even know what the words are now. I'm going to put it on my social media platform, which means this is for me. I'm advocating for this. This is great. I like this. I think this is cool. And the picture is of him dressed, in the way that you normally see those paintings of Jesus with robe. It dresses that. You see him dressed in this way. He's supposed to be healing a sick person. And so Trump put that out. And then immediately he got some backlash and pushback from people saying, look, this is too far. This is blasphemous. You've gone crazy. And so eventually, first he defended it and still is defending it now. But eventually he took it down. Then he came back and said, well, you know what? That wasn't a picture of me as Jesus. That was a picture of me as a doctor. Now, I don't know what kind of doctor looks like that in a picture. I've never seen a picture of a doctor like that. Even if you're looking at back in the day, olden times, as they say, That's not the way that a medicine person or a healer would look like per se, unless they were somebody, a religious healer. So that's you. They're usually not depicted that way. And so for most folk, clearly that's a lie. So now you've put out a picture of yourself as Jesus. If you look at the picture, though, they had an AI generated picture. So it has him as Jesus. It has some soldiers behind him. And then it had a person in the middle. I don't know who the person was, and kind of like a thing. Now, you're like, well, why didn't you bring up the picture and show us? I'm not putting that picture up here. Let me just be clear. So that's why I'm going to describe it instead of showing it to you. But in that picture that he decided to have, it had a guy at the top with horns and wings coming out. So the original picture didn't. It just had soldiers on it. But his one had a guy with horns and wings. Don't know what that's about, but just wanted to make sure I put that in there, that his picture was a little different, that he decided to have the one with horns and wings. So just, put that in there. But, so he puts that out. And so now Christians again, Catholics again, looking at these people again. What are you doing? So the eyes again are on the church. And the church in general, the people who support this administration, support Donald Trump, support the Republican Party, looking at them now and saying, all right, what's your response now? And so you've heard some responses. But again, you've had some people tripping over themselves trying to defend it. Oh, well, he took it down, so it's all good. One person was saying that, oh, he took it down. We all make mistakes. So I'm not perfect, so I can't expect him to be perfect. That's true. And you can just say if you think it's different. However, the difference is he took it down, lied about it, and defended it. So initially defended it like, oh, no, it's all good. I can do this. Then lied and said, no, it really was a doctor. That's not taking accountability. That means it wasn't really a mistake. That means you put it out there. You thought it's a good idea. You still think it's a good idea, but you took it down just because you're starting to get some blowback. That's not taking accountability. That's not asking for forgiveness, of course, which she's not going to do. And so again, as a Christian, you have to really look at yourself and say, can I be supportive of this type of activity when somebody is going to blaspheme, when somebody is going to basically put themselves as Jesus, when somebody's going to say that I'm your God? Now, the reality of the matter is, going back to what one of the other writers said, you did this. If you treat him like a God, eventually he's going to think that he's a God. And a lot of Christians decided to stop treating God and Jesus Christ as God and decided to treat politicians as God. And so that's where we are. Bunch of comments, so let me hit those. In January, the Pentagon threatened the Vatican. Some reference the Advigon, y'all see what it says on the thing, the papacy, referencing when Francis King captured the Pope. Yeah, so that's okay. So yeah, we did kind of slide past that part. So accordingly, there was a meeting between one of the Vatican representatives. For those of you who don't know the Vatican, the Vatican representative, the Vatican is where the Pope lives, came to the United States, met with people at the Pentagon, and one of the individuals at the Pentagon, or the Pentagon as a whole, as the administration as a whole, decided to threaten the Vatican. Like, y'all need to get on board with what we're doing, or we can take you out, type of situation. We have the army, we'll do whatever we want to do. I 100% believe it's true. That's how it went down. The administration is kind of saying, man, maybe we didn't do it. And we have some references to history of why we should be able to do it. Again, that's that question for Christians and especially Catholics. What are you dealing with? You're dealing with somebody who thinks that they are bigger than your faith, bigger than your God, bigger than you. And they're playing in your face, as the young people say sometimes, like, they just playing in your face. I'm gonna just disrespect you to your face, and you're not gonna do anything about it. And the truth of the matter is, some of the folk are not doing anything about it. They just gonna sit there and they just gonna blindly follow, and just defend the fact, okay, I voted for this person, and so now I guess I'm beholden to them, and I gotta defend everything. Otherwise, I'll look like I did something wrong. hey man, admit what you did wrong and move on. Is the way I look at it. But yeah, so that is another part of this. That was a whole nother escalation. So it wasn't just one event. It wasn't the two events. So you got the social media where he thinks he's Jesus. You got the fact that he criticized the Pope directly, and you got the fact that he threatened the Vatican, or had his administration threaten the Vatican even further back. So you have a really big dust up when you're talking about Christians, and what he's trying to do with Christianity. The Pentagon denied threatening the Pope. Yeah, and that's where it goes. They denied threatening, but that's what the reports say. Now, if you're going to believe somebody, there's a person who came from the Vatican who most likely is a Catholic, which means they're a Christian. Or I could believe the administration, which has continuously lied and has shown no Christian values, even though you got a couple of people who think it's cool to wear crosses and things like that. Outside of that, no Christian values. I think I'm gonna believe the person from the back. So you can believe who you want to believe. I know who I'm believing. Notice that all the people in the picture are Caucasian. How stupid and gullible are we as American citizens? A doctor, really? Yeah, absolutely. If you look at the picture, you see it's very clear what's going on. And so the problem is, why are people trying to justify? You know, okay, I don't care who the person is on my side. If it's somebody that I support, if it's my favorite rapper, if it's my favorite sports star, if it is a politician that I voted for, you cross the line of going out here and acting a fool, I'm going to have to leave you alone. Like I don't follow you down the path. You can still say, well, you know, maybe the person is going through some stuff, but I'm not going to follow you into crazy town. Like that's not where I'm going to go. And I need people to get on board with being able to make a mistake and move on. Too many times we're fans, and we shouldn't be fans of politicians and leaders. We should support them, but we shouldn't be fans because we need to hold folk accountable. And so I think that's the problem. To the Hispanic Catholics, man, I really am looking at that population. I haven't heard anything from any kind of leadership in that group, but I don't understand it. I don't get it at all. You already are being victimized and brutalized and being called all types of things by this administration just for being Hispanic. But then you turn around, and for many of you who are Catholic Hispanic, you're turning around and being disrespected by the fact that somebody thinks that they're your savior, that they're Jesus and not Jesus Christ. And so it's just a weird situation of where I would say, I don't know how you can support this. I don't know how you can enable this. I don't know how this can kind of continue. Like it is somebody absolutely saying, I'm going to do all of the worst things I can think possible because these people are too silly to do anything other than just follow me. Like he really thinks that everybody's just mindless and will just follow him. Now, people can make excuses. He's not a true Christian. He don't know what he's doing. All right, that could be your excuse. He is mentally compromised and he doesn't know what he's doing. That could be your excuse. He just made a mistake and he took it down. That could be your excuse. Regardless of what your excuse is, it comes to the fact that this is still not somebody that should be in charge. This is still not somebody that you should be following, and this is still not somebody who you should be excusing their activities. Those are excuses. Mentally compromised, cool, but you still need to be held accountable for what you did. You know, we couldn't forgive you for doing things, but number one, you have to admit that you did it, and number two, you need to ask for forgiveness. And so, you know, and when I say we can forgive you, we can still forgive you. You don't have to admit that you did it or ask for forgiveness to get forgiveness. But as a leader, this is what you need to do in order to still be in charge and still be supported. So I can forgive you, but I can't support what you're doing because you're continuously acting a fool and going down this bad path. Now, so what's real important though, I think for us as Christians is that if the world is looking at us and we haven't, you know, as Christians, we don't get as much attention as we used to. But the world is looking at us and looking at what we're doing as Christians, as individuals, whether we're Catholic, whether we're Protestant, whether we, whatever denomination that you may be, the world is looking at us now saying, hey, what's up, Christians? What are you doing? Whether you are a Trump supporting Christian, let me say that again, whether you are a Trump supporter who thinks that they're a Christian, or you are a Christian who didn't, deal with that, or you're a Christian that doesn't deal with any kind of political stuff and don't vote or whatever. People are all looking at, well, what's the response? And I think we have to be true with our response. First thing is, what does the word say? And that's where we lean towards. And so if in a situation where the Pope has said something, if the Pope is saying the word, then we have to lean on the word. In the picture, with the picture and him trying to be, thinking that he's Jesus, idols, we have to look at we have to look at the word. And so I think first we have to look there. And then our response has to be one of compassion and love. But who is the compassion and love for? The compassion and love for one another. So as much as I want to sit back here and call the people who are MAGA or Trump supporters crazy and names and all that kind of stuff, true. It could be crazy, but there has to be a little bit of compassion. Like, look, you were wrong. And it may be tough for you to get to a point where you can admit that you're wrong. Or it may be tough for you a point, to let go of this obsession or whatever. You drunk the Kool-Aid. It may be tough for you. I need to have compassion to that. But at the same time, can't just sit back here and be like, all right, you can just do what you want to do. All right, you can poorly represent Christianity in Christ. So people are looking at us to see what our responses are going to be. So for those of people out here who are MAGA, and I don't represent them because I don't know what they are, I don't understand their situation. If you're with God, then be with God. If you're a Christian, then be a Christian. And that means you can't be going over here and advocating for wars and killing one another and going against what the Word of God says. For those of us who are not with this administration and not with those political parties and all that, we need to continue to be Christians and remind and let other people know this does not represent us. This is not what Christianity is. None of that represents Christianity. And we have to just be clear to that and speak to that, because this is the time when people are looking at us and seeing what we're doing and seeing how we act. Matthew 24:24 states, "For many will come in my name, claiming I am Christ, and will deceive many." Yeah. And that's what a lot of people have been saying. They're right there with that. They've been talking about our false prophets. They've been talking about, look, I have heard more references to Revelation than I've ever heard in my life or seen in my life when it comes to people who are, writing about this situation and talking about and discussing this situation. And so, yeah, you'll have a lot of people who are here to deceive, false prophets, people who are coming out. And so there's a lot of biblical references that people are using for this. This is that time. You can't sit here, read the Bible and say, well, the Bible clearly talks about people who are trying to deceive, people who are trying to get you further away from Christ. You read about this, and then when the time comes, you act like you're unprepared. We act like we don't know. Well, this is different. No, the Word of God prepares us, and it's supposed to be preparing us for what's going on now. And I think that that's the problem, that we have a lot of people. They're just in denial, or they just don't want what they see. They don't want it to be. And so if you see it and somebody tells you who they are, somebody shows you who they are, believe them. And that's not my saying, but I think it's really true. If somebody shows you who they are, if the president shows you that he's not a Christian, if the president shows you that he does not care about Christian values, if the president shows you that he does not respect your religion, and this is not an isolated incident. You can look at the whole entire presidency, this one and the last one, when he's out there trying to hawk and sell Bibles, his own Bibles, when he's intentionally holding the Bible upside down to show you that I don't care anything about you, when he's pepper spraying church members in front of their own church who are handing out water to people, because I need you to move out of the way so I can take a photo op. He is showing you time and time again that he does not respect our faith and he does not respect you. And so I just, for the life of me, I can't understand. But again, as Christians, we have to continuously speak out and say, he does not represent the faith. And those people who say that he does are in conflict with what I believe. It has to be clear, and we have to say it all the time. Anytime people ask me, or anytime people say, well, all the Christians vote. No. That is not who's voting this way, or that's not who supports this person. You can't have somebody who comes up and says, they've never asked God for forgiveness. Somebody who's very clear that they don't think that they have no plans on going to heaven. And then again, somebody who wants to just kill and celebrates and enjoys killing, talking about wiping civilizations out and just so cavalier with the loss of life, and will criticize the Pope as he tries to talk sense from a Christian point of view. So anyway, we're way past our time. That is the topic du jour. Everyone is looking, well, not everyone, but people are looking at how Christians are acting and how we're going to react to this situation. And we have to react right. And we have to react. It is not okay to be lukewarm in this situation. It is not okay to just sit back and be like, or I'm not concerned with that. You know how people do. Oh man, that stuff is going on out there. That ain't really, no. Speak the truth. You don't have to be obsessed with anything, but if somebody asks you about what's going on, speak the truth. Speak what you believe and speak for the Christian faith. All right. Again, way over time. Just as a reminder, on Thursday, we have Thursday, our weekly Bible study. A lot of people who are going to Bible study, maybe they wouldn't be confused on what to do in these situations. So please join us, 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, Thursday, Facebook and YouTube. On Sunday, we have worship service at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Facebook, YouTube, and in person at the address that's on your screen. And then finally, we have a time of prayer at 7, from 7 to 7:45 on Tuesdays. And please join us for all of those. Thank you for all the comments, everything that came in. Thank you for joining us. Please join us again. And as always, we will be here and have a good conversation. Good night.
Sometimes you'll want